All right, hello everyone again. I've been wanting to do this video for a while, but things happen. Anyway, this time we're gonna continue our app development. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put our API endpoint in front of it. So that way we can talk to our Lambda function, start doing a few different things going on there and start testing it from our local. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how everything works. Now, one of the things that will happen is that I'm not gonna put authorization in the API. Just to keep things simple, right now, we will do that authorization of the API later on. Right now, we'll keep it simple, which means that you will see my API URL. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to destroy it, create a new one after the video, and that way I have control over who has access to it, because it can go a little bit out of control if I just let it out there. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to share my screen. What we left off last time is that we were looking at deploying the Lambda function, and that Lambda function pretty much was able to get us connect to Bedrock and be able to do queries and prompts. So we tested it by going to the console and accessing that through the console. But now what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and start testing a little bit more. I don't know what's going on with my, okay, finally it's coming up. Okay, it took a little bit of time to come up. So this is where we left off. So now what we're going to do is we're going to define, this is my Lambda function. What we're going to do is we are going to define, we're going to define the API. And so what I have here, I'm just going to show you the API Gateway AWS SDK documentation so that we can take a look at these. Got it now because I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, so we're gonna come here, and this is our documentation here. So let me put this on the side here, and so you will see here that this is this is defining my API. What's happening here is that we are defining every method, everything that we need to do. But definitely in the documentation, we're gonna scroll down because what we're gonna actually look for here is this one. This AWS Lambda backend is so, I mean, it's very popular that, and it's very common for us to do this, that, I mean, they already have this enabled for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this. I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it over here. Perfect. Now, one of the things is that I do need to import my API Gateway. So then I'm going to do AWS API Gateway. Awesome. And that's it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is also, I'm going to give it a name here. So this is my API. Well, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So let's do LLM Quest. That is just the name of my API here. And then my handler is actually going to be my Lambda function, which in this case is going to be fn. Now, I'm going to change these names later on because these are very generic, and we're going to be creating more Lambda functions. But for now, it's all good. I'm going to tell it that I don't want a proxy because I want to define exactly how this is going to work. And this is going to be important so that I can define later on different paths and different methods for different researches that are going to be going around. So in this case, this is my API, this API root add resource items. And actually, I don't really need to do that because for this, actually, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do add resource, and I'm gonna do, instead of items, I'm gonna do prompt. This is gonna be a very simple prompt. And here I'm not gonna do a get, I'm gonna do it through post, so I can send it as a JSON in the body and not necessarily as a URL encoding, because my prompt may be very, very large. So I have all of that. That's it. Shall we give it a try and deploy these to my account? Now I just want to make sure that we're gonna do this because I have made some changes to my environment. So I'm going to case synthesizing this, and I just want to make sure everything is running. And okay, And then that's because I'm not in the right folder. So I'm in the root of my entire what is it called? My entire project, but not in the GenAI backend. Perfect. Now I'm gonna go and do CDK synth. And with that, it should be coming up. Perfect. Now it is working. Okay, so now I have this API working. Everything is looking good. Yeah, it's applying to S1. Awesome. So just a little bit of review here. So we are defining an API gateway. We are telling it, hey, this is the name of my API gateway. And then this is my handler. It's going to be the function that I defined previously. I'm not adding a proxy. Proxy basically allows you to use this, have this automatic. I want to have a little bit more control. So in this case, I'm adding a resource to my root. So the URL of the API gateway, and then I'm adding prompt at the end. And then I'm doing items dot add a method, and I'm adding a method pause. And I'm not adding any other method. So the API is not going to listen to anything else but the post. Okay. That's the API method that it's gonna be using. So that's everything that is gonna be happening there. Okay. Now, one of the things is like, well, which URL are we going to be using? And that's something that we're gonna do. We're gonna take a look at to an output or print to see what is the API gateway URL that we are gonna be what is it called that we're gonna be leveraging, and we're gonna be getting out. Let's do this. So one of the things is that we need to have CFN output in here. So let me go. Do I have it already? Okay, I don't have it here. Okay, perfect. So what I need to do is I need to import CFN output, and this will allow us to then at the end here say, you know what? Let's go to CNF output API URL, and then the value API URL. Okay. And then we're gonna synthesize this to make sure everything is working the way that we intended, and we didn't introduce any little bugs here that we can fix before we actually deploy. To do always takes a few seconds for this to finish. So once we have that, then I'm gonna deploy, and then we're gonna get the URL prompt, and then we're gonna test it to make sure that we are able to connect to our Lambda and get a result. So now in this case, everything is working. So I'm gonna go ahead and say CDK deploy, and we're gonna go after it. Now, right now, I only have one stack, which is this GenAI app backend stack. That's the only stack that I have, and everything is been working. And that's why I'm just doing CDK deploy. If I were to have other stacks, then I will have to define which stack I'm deploying. How do I know how many stacks I have? Well, in my app, which is the first file that I have defined, or my entry file, you will see here that I have this GenAI app stack, and I'm giving a name. This is the name of my stack. And right now, I only have one. I don't have more. This is the only one that I have. And so that's the one that is working. If I wanted more, I will define more here, import it from the library. And we will do that as our application starts growing. We are going to start adding more stacks. Uh, so storage stack. We're going to add a Bedrock stack, because that Bedrock stack, we're going to have agents and knowledge bases and other things within that. So we need to have a Bedrock stack. And what it allows us to do is be able to deploy individual stacks without having to go into the entire code. So as the application starts growing, we don't want the tool or the CDK to check on every single resource. We just wanted to check on the resources that we want to deploy. So in this case, right now, it's just telling me that it's going to change the executable role. It's gonna, I'm not 100% sure why, even though we didn't make any changes in the role or the Lambda function, but that's okay. We don't, I mean, everything is fine. It's gonna go ahead and execute this. We are going to be fine. Do you know what? Sorry, I know why it's making some changes, and that is because we need to make sure something we need to add. By making sure, because the API gateway is now calling the Lambda, we need to add in the Lambda the permission for API gateway to call it. Otherwise, it's going to fail. It's going to tell us that it cannot process the request or it doesn't have access to process the request. Okay. Now, so this is gonna take a moment. Okay, and everything has been deployed. Now you can see here that this is my endpoint. This here, my API URL. This is my endpoint. If I can just copy it, that's because over here, this is my endpoint. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy these, and then I'm gonna use something like Postman in order for us to be able to test things out. Okay. So I'm going to go here. So I'm just opening my Postman. Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna go over here. Okay, this is my Postman. It's my Postman. And what I'm gonna do is this is a post, not a get. So I'm gonna get a post. Then in the body, I'm gonna do row, and I'm gonna do JSON. Then in here, I'm gonna do prompt. Tell me a story about dragons. That's it. And I'm gonna go ahead and send that. Okay, it's missing an authentication token. So it's telling me that I need to have an authentication token. All right. So we got the missing authentication, and that is because I forgot something here, and that is our URL. URL, this is the root. So the root, we didn't configure anything. It was just the default. So it needs authorization to do anything, but it's not connected to anything else. So it's really not useful. So what I need to do is add my prompt. That is the path that I define in my code, right? So I have that, I have added that, I have my prompt, and then I'm gonna go ahead and send it. And as you can see, it's gonna get processed. And now I have a story. Now I can be starting to test I'm gonna start be able to test my application, my Lambda function without having to go into the console and start deploying things and just doing the test over there. Okay, so this is tell me a story about dragons. I misspelled story, of course. As always, let's do a different one. Tell me write a technical review about Claude, the Claude LLM models. Okay, let's see what it comes up with. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna send this. Now, this is a very basic thing right now, and we can see here that it's giving me back the same thing over and over again. It's a story of dragon. It's telling me a legendary story. So it doesn't really took my what is it called my prompt. And so let's take a look at what's going on here. Why it didn't do that? So in here we have that in my Lambda function. This is the event prompt. If the event doesn't have the prompt, then it's gonna write a short story about dragons. So that seems to be the case. It's always getting this. It's not getting the prompt itself. So one of the things that I like to do is, in this case, I can go ahead and say print event. Okay, so I print event, and I'm gonna go ahead and then I'm gonna go ahead and deploy this. What it's now, I'm gonna jump into the console and I'm gonna take a look at. I'm just gonna get access to the console, get access to the Lambda function. And once I'm inside the Lambda function, this specific Lambda function, I'm going to be able to take a look at the CloudWatch logs every time that I send and see what's going on. Why is it that it's writing a story about dragons and not a prompt that I'm sending? And then be able to make the changes here, okay? So, so I'm going to show you here. Okay, so first of all, let's wait. Okay, so that's deploying. That's deploying. So we are just gonna wait, and then we're gonna be switching over to the AWS console. So it's gonna take a couple minutes here, or a minute at the most. Take a look at that. In here, I'm gonna go to monitor, and then I'm gonna go to view CloudWatch logs. Now everything was working. If I do the test directly in Lambda function directly, if I do the test there with API Gateway, now it seems that something is not working. So this is the stream, the log stream that it was coming through. So it's printing out the story that I read, but now I need the input. And so that's why I did a little change and I deployed it. Okay. So now everything has been deployed. Fantastic. What I'm going to do is with Postman, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send this again. And now, so it's going to send. I'm going to go back here. This is the request that I just sent. Perfect. And we can see here, okay? So I have my resource prompt, path prompt. This is all of it that is going on. And so I'm just looking for the body. So here it is. Perfect. So it is in the body. So it's not just the prompt itself, it's in the body key. So I need to go ahead and do that. I need to parse this body as JSON, then access the prompt key inside. So why don't we do that? Let's fix our Lambda function so that we can actually get this working really quick. So I have my Lambda function here. And so in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the print for now, but in here, instead of the event get prompt, I need to get first the body. So body equal event dot get body. Okay. If there is no body, then return an empty bracket, because and I think the next thing that I have to do is, or I can do it here actually. I can do it here. I'm gonna import JSON, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do JSON dot loads, and then this is so basically getting the string of the body, because that's a string, and I'm gonna get the loads here, and I'm gonna get the JSON as a string. I'm gonna load it into JSON. So why did I do that? It's because if I didn't, like, how do I know it's a string? Well, basically because, let's see, where did it go? Sorry, I'm looking for my, so how do I know it's a string? Well, if I take a look at the key here is body, and then this, I have these new lines that are happening. So that's a very quick indicator that is a string, that is not being parsed as a JSON or anything like that. So it's a string. And so what I'm going to do is now parse it as from string to JSON, so that I can now get it in the format that I need. So have that, which is a body, and now instead of event, I'm going to do body here. Now I'm going to save that, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and deploy these. So let's deploy this, and I'm going to do CDK deploy. Okay. So what is it that we do? We change because API Gateway now is sending what I send over to API Gateway is sending it in the body, and that is sending in this string. So I need to get the value of the body and then parse that as JSON. Then once I have it as a JSON, then I can get the prompt key, and then that will give me the value, the user prompt, and then off it go. It should be able to then pass it over to the rest of the code. So everything is being deployed right now. Once that's deployed, what we're going to do next is we are going to make a request with Postman. Once we have the request with Postman, then we're going to be good to go to be making requests, making changes, and allow us to develop a little bit faster. All right, fantastic. Now that's done. So everything should be good in the sense that I should be able to send this request. And look at that. Now it's working. Now it is getting this technical review about LLM models, and then it's telling me the technical review of Cloud LLM models, and it's giving me an overview of all of these. Fantastic. What if I do about Amazon Canvas? No, sorry, Amazon Canvas, Amazon Nova. I've been working with Canvas, so that has stuck in my head. But let's do it with Amazon Nova. Let's see what it comes up with. And so it's telling me, perfect. So I'm changing things. Okay. Why say neural open source virtual assistant LLM models? I don't know, never. Maybe he has knowledge about something while it was being developed. Okay, so we have this now, which is perfect because now what is it that we can do? Well, we can have local code that can connect to our API to make this do different things with it. So one of the things that now we are looking to do, that we have an API gateway. We are able to do API calls. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is we have our PDF files. How can we have those PDF files available now to the LLM and be able to do searches? So that's what we're going to do next, which is going to be our knowledge base. And we're going to talk about embeddings. What do they mean? And how do we manage those embeddings in a vector database? So that's going to be our next video. Stay tuned, because that's going to be now very cool that we're going to be able to start talking with our documents. All right. Have a good one. Talk to you later.